This is 4TW Live for February 26th, 2015. Episode 16, The Darkside of the Internet. Welcome to 4TW Live. By the ominous opening, we're going to be talking about the dark side of the internet. Yeah, we kind of touched briefly on it last week, if you didn't listen to last week's episode of digital distribution. But this week, we're going to go all in. So this week, the dark side of the net, which all three of us have probably had our own experiences with. Joining us this week is Chris Cardi Kovacs. And
yes, I am joining you at this time and moment in this evening that we call... Never mind.
Yeah, on his cell phone. And Super Mario Benedigas. I just bumbled his name like crazy, but I don't care.
Yes,
how you guys doing today?
That's okay. Oh, wonderful. Doing all right.
Throughout the duration of this episode, I will be speaking as Bane.
I will kick your ass. You sound like shit on your show. You can't do that when you're on a cell phone, because then you just sound like a total douche. Dude, you just sound like a total douche.
I don't have the mic for it. I have the cup, but I just don't have the mic for it. Anyway.
All right, well, let's get things on the road, shall we? All right, so last week we talked about digital distribution. We touched briefly on the CDer side of things. But I thought it would be interesting to talk about the CD side, quite honestly. So, the earliest seediness on the internet, I guess you could say, would be the original hackers. And I'm not talking about people like Mitnick or any of those guys. I'm talking about phone phreaking. You guys ever remember that stuff?
Very briefly, little bits, but I heard of it.
For those of you who don't know, it's the generation. It's generating a 2400 hertz tone in order to get free phone calls, including long distance or mainly long distance and international calling. By using this tone, you could take over the. I think you could jump onto a carrier line and pretty much take over the phone, the phone system. It's a little more complicated than that. In fact, one thing that could do it was a little blue Captain Crunch whistle that came in Captain Crunch cereal. And you could blow into it and actually generate the tones.
Oh. Huh. Yeah, it's no shit. It's true story.
In fact, one of the main guys who was involved in this was nicknamed Captain Crunch. Now, this was really, really big in the 70s. They even started creating blue and black boxes that are actually little devices that generated these tones. In fact, you know who got their start doing this?
Who?
Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. They used to make black boxes back in the day before they started making the little useless PCs called the Apple and the Apple IIs. That's what they started in. I think it was Woz's garage, parents' garage, making these things.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably the earliest hackers that I can remember. But later on, we moved up to the big leagues with people like Kevin Mitnick and people like that actually hacking companies and government agencies through the use of modems. Now, are you guys too familiar with Kevin Mitnick and what he did?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, no one has ever really done the crazy shit like you see on TV where like, oh my God, they done hacked the bank accounts and transferred all the money. No one's really done anything that egregious. Usually you just had intrusions and some data theft. That was usually about it. In fact, Mitnick really didn't do anything that bad. If anything, he was the example.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy they used to say, look, this is becoming a problem. Someone's going to be made an example of. And it was Mitnick. In fact, there were some guys that had done a lot worse than he'd done. But, Mitnick got caught.
Okay.
So, for those of you who don't know, Mitnick is probably was one of the biggest was the most renowned computer hackers. He got caught in 1999.
Oof.
Yeah. and served 46 months in prison and 3 years probation. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I forgot exactly what he did here. What did he do? He broke into DEC. For those of you who remember, the Digital Equipment Corporation. They created the Alpha processor, and actually were a big computer firm before they got bought by Compaq.
Wow.
Yeah, he also, I think, messed with NASA and and NORAD, which, yeah, he screwed around with NORAD. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Not a good idea.
But hacking has become much more prevalent lately, especially with things like with organizations like Anonymous. Now, Anonymous is kind of...
I think you're skipping... Hold up. I'm sorry.
What am I skipping?
Because I understand we're going on a timeline here. One notable mention thing that you're totally skipping is worth mentioning. And that is the hacking of cable boxes and dish
you know what? I didn't remember that. You know what?
That's right. Yes.
And DirecTV. Let me just say...
yes.
With the cards and all that.
Let me talk about it because Matt knows why and Mario doesn't, but you're going to know why. I'm not going to say who, just a certain specific relative of mine close to me that we got involved in the whole ordering parts from Canada and basically changing cards and blah, blah, blah. And what I'm talking about is in the late almost going into the millennium, and also in the first 2001, it was really big to hack DirecTV cards because they were very easy to hack with certain equipment.
The HU cards.
Tutorials. HU cards, right. And it became a very big thing because before that you've heard of the scrambler boxes through cable and so on and so forth. Well, what became really big right after that is the HU cards, hacking those. And you could literally unlock every single channel, every pay-per-view. It was all, everything was unlocked. And you could just have at it, right? Well, eventually DirecTV got smart to the whole thing, and they, after making several security changes, they found a way to basically entrap and capture and get all the information on people that did this, but through the sites that sold the parts to do it. And whoever got busted, you pretty much were slapped on the wrist. You were told to pay, I think it was like $1,000 fine. You had to pay for DirecTV for like a couple of years, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, for those who don't know, one of the way they actually blocked the cards was known. It was the infamous event known as Black Sunday. Black Sunday took place 1 week before Super Bowl Sunday in 2001. What DirecTV did was rather smart. They sent a series of updates to all their satellite boxes, but they sent the updates seemed pretty harmless on their own. But when the code was completed, it actually formed the software that was going to destroy 98% of the hacked smart cards. And because of the way they delivered it, nobody knew what it was.
Exactly. And then what it resulted in... Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I'm sorry. 25,000 people got sued, including the Juice.
Yes. That's right.
O.J. Simpson.
Oh,
I remember that. I remember O.J. getting caught with that, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we were... yeah, well, I'll just say that, again, certain family members, I'm sure, don't want me talking about it, so I'll just leave it at that. But
I know a lot of people who did it. I mean, I did not partake. I actually had DirecTV back then, and I actually paid for it.
Yep. And I remember that certain relative offering it to you, and you were like, no thanks. You don't want to worry about it. But what's funny is right after Black Sunday happened, they got a little smarter. It got to the point where you had to literally get a separate computer, and it had to run an emulator system, which it basically made it so the card could be rescanned and couldn't be detected or blocked. But it got even to the point where they were catching those, and it slowly did dwindle away. I mean, it's probably still around. It's not
really done anymore.
It's not really done, yeah.
But then again, with the advent of torrents and which we'll talk about later, it's kind of pointless at this point. It really
All right,
is.
so now to continue
But
going in your direction.
Hacking in the new millennium has kind of taken a different turn. Where before hackers were mostly just out there for fun to see what they could do, hacking has turned into something new called hacktivism.
Yeah.
What are your guys' opinions on hacktivism and hacktivists? I'd like to get your guys' opinion before I share mine.
I think I'll start with that one. I mean, one big one that we know who's reared their head a lot, Anonymous being one of them. I mean, whether it be whatever goal they do, sorry, not goal, but obviously who their targets are. I mean, Sony has been in the line of sight with them for quite some time. I know with, PlayStation Network and the last year's lovely network being down for months at a time, thanks to them.
Oh, don't forget Xbox Live, too.
And Xbox Live, yeah, they definitely had done that as well. My opinion to say, at the end of the day, do they? If I had to ask them, at the end of the day, when you're doing this, for whatever the reasons are, I mean, obviously you have your reasons to do it, but do you not see that, the people that are trying to just go by their day, enjoy the service, because at the end of the day, I'm just coming home, just want to go and play my games. I don't need a set of guys here that I know have their own agenda for whatever reason they may have, but why does it have to come and affect me? In this case, if you were going after Sony for certain things, I don't know. Just don't interrupt me.
Yeah, I mean, they started off doing some shit against 4chan back in the day. Mm-hmm. Attacking sites like 4chan and a few others. Yeah. And they really kind of went to the hacktivist route right at when they decided to start attacking Scientologists and going after the Church of Scientology in 2008?
Yeah.
And really hitting them pretty damn hard. And that's kind of what really put them into the spotlight in my mind, was when they went after Scientology. Because up to that point, nobody really fucked with the Scientologists. Because they got money and they weren't afraid to use it for lawyers. And they were bad. I don't know if you guys ever heard about the shit Scientologists used to do, but pretty much you talk out against them, they will come to you and they will burn you to the ground legally.
It's still they still do it. I mean, it's not nothing.
But I'm not going to talk bad about Scientologists right now.
But listen, I'll tell you guys something. As far as Anonymous goes, unlike my comrade Mario here, I'm not going to ride the fence or be devil's advocate. I'm going to tell you straight out, I'm all for what they're doing. I think it's a good thing because, see, what this does is it tells the bigger corporations, the guys who think they're above being human and that everyone is just peons that look down on us. It tells them that, hey, we have the power to fight back, and everything they're doing. You're just talking about technology stuff. I mean, they're doing more than that. I mean, they're actually going after KKK. They're shutting those guys down. They're going
also
after other hate groups.
People like the Coke Industries, because they were anti-union and things like that. And
there's reasons they're doing it. That's my point. They're not just picking anyone for no reason. They're seeing it from a perspective of the little guy getting screwed, and they're going after those big companies.
I'm not very union pro-union. So.
And I can totally see your point to that. Chris, that's definitely not a problem there. Besides Sony, and I tossed them first because that was the first thing right at smack in my mind where I remember the most of the from, mostly from in this case. Yeah, everything else you've mentioned, I know. Yeah, they definitely have implied and implemented themselves ISIS. To other things. Yeah. Yes, to ISIS and certain other things I can't say. I'll say yeah. It's just that when it's gone from one end of the spectrum and then for some reason they hit the other end of the spectrum, thinking, hey, wait a second, man. What did we do? It's kind of like, man, I don't.
You're saying the fallout effect.
In a way,
You're saying the fallout effect. Yeah. How it not only affects the people they're going after, but other people that are innocent. I get that, but you also have to look at it from. You just kind of have to look at it from an accepting perspective and say, look, is it an acceptable loss that I don't get to play with my friend on Call of Duty or some shit?
Well, don't forget the reason why they started it.
Yeah, and the reason they start.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, dude, you got the stuff in front of you.
No. I mean, the reason they started was because Sony stopped people from hacking the PlayStation 3. From being able to sideload things and things like that, and that pissed off people. Yep. But
to me, that's not their high point. In my opinion, that is not what they should be known.
Neither was getting involved with the Koch brothers issues or crap with the Occupy Wall Street movement. They don't need. Okay. I'm fine when they go after people that really do, in my mind. I guess you could say, I'm not judge and jury, but people that need to be like they've gone after pedophiles and child pornographers and provided information to the cops. They've done that.
Oh, Amanda Todd, what's her name? That girl, Amanda Todd, or whatever her name was, that was bullied online.
Yeah,
that went after the people that bullied her.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Yeah. But my thing is, I have problems when they get involved in political things that are political movements. Like the issue with the Koch brothers and unions because they disagree with the unions and they attack the unions, not physically, but, in the media and stuff. I don't agree with that. I don't agree they should do anything to do with political situations because in my mind, at that point, you stop becoming active or you're losing your altruism and showing that you have a political agenda.
Like an anarchist, in a way?
Not an anarchist. No, you're not an anarchist. An anarchist would try to shut down the government and things like that. They've never really tried to attack the government in that type of way, which they really haven't. They, as far as I know, they've never really gone, toe-to-toe with the federal government or said, the government needs to be shut down. They've never said that. As far as I know. Now they'll go after the government whenever they do things they don't agree with. Like I'm pretty sure if the net neutrality fails, I don't know where they stand on that, but they may retaliate in that way.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they did. It really wouldn't.
But, I'm pretty sure they're all for net neutrality.
But yet that's an example of something that is being under.
Well, and they did go after, and I have a problem when they attacked. Well, and I do have a huge problem when they attacked companies because of the shutdown of Mega Upload.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
I used to have Mega Upload.
You crossed that line at that point of being activist to being malicious, because now you're saying why'd you shut them down? They were just providing pirated material. Anyway, look at it. They were breaking the law. In fact. They were going after criminals and people they perceived being criminals. At this point, they're like, well, we agree with this group of criminals, which they were. If you provide and distribute, if you provide a service in which you can provide, copyright material and completely ignore copyrights, you're technically a criminal at that point. Sorry. Any way you look at it.
Which is how, it is.
But, it's not like, oh my God, you're a murderer. But to attack the government because they went after these guys, well, that's a completely different situation, in my opinion. Your guys' thoughts? Well,
I can agree. And you're right, Matt. I can agree with a bit of with what you say there. Like you said, net neutrality. What are they going to do? What side of the fence are they going to play? It's kind of a. And I don't know. I feel as if they're kind of just picking and choosing. It's not more like, okay, are you truly for this cause all the way, or is it just to a certain extent that you just change your mind and you want to go somewhere else because you don't like this, you don't like that? Okay, that's fine. Everyone's entitled. Every group is entitled to their point of view. It's just like you said, Matt. When does it go from, like you said, from like an activist here, or when does it get to become, malicious?
Yeah, when LulzSec got took down, they freaking went up in arms about it. But again, LulzSec was malicious.
Exactly.
They weren't, a hacktivist per se. They were malicious. There is a line between hacktivists and just criminals. And yes, hacktivists technically are criminals, but there's a difference between you being Robin Hood and you being the Joker. Yes, there is a difference. So, but again, these things are enabled because of we have services that really the internet provides you with complete anonymity now, and some think that could be a huge problem. Look at things like Tor. You guys know what Tor is, correct?
Yeah.
I do not actually. Haven't heard of that.
Tor is a anonymizing service that enables you to create connect to anonymous. It's a proxy service, almost like.
Okay.
Allows you to maintain your anonymity on the internet using encryption in the application layer, and enable. And it's nested kind of like an onion. In fact, the network is called the Onion Network.
Okay.
But it enables you to maintain anonymity and an encrypted connection and a tunnel, almost like a VPN on the internet.
Okay.
A lot of people use this, especially groups like Anonymous, in order to maintain anonymity, because whenever they connect to you, they don't log your information. Nothing's logged, nothing's tracked. It's very difficult to track somebody.
Gotcha.
Probably one of the worst offenders for using this for nefarious purposes in recent times was the Silk Road. You guys heard of Silk Road?
No.
Silk Road was a website ran through Tor that was pretty much like the Silk Road of old. It was an online black market. Drugs, people. You could buy anything there.
It was bad.
Legal and illegal.
It was really bad.
All through by using Bitcoin.
What?
Bitcoin,
Using the Bitcoin currency.
In fact, the guy who got caught, who ran it, his name was Dread Pryor Roberts. His real name escapes me at the moment. Just got sentenced, actually, a couple weeks ago.
Wow. That's right.
And they caught him and arrested him. And this guy was so shady, he actually tried to put out a hit on members of his site because he thought they might flip on the users and him as well. Mm-hmm. Because apparently there were some issues with a drug dealer, and he tried to put out a hit. It turned out I think they were government agents on this individual, and offered him to pay these people in Bitcoins. Mm-hmm. Rather substantial amount.
Holy crap.
The guy's name was Ross Albright. That was his name. Mm-hmm. And there have been, child pornography sites online because of this. There have been lots of different sites created on Tor and services on Tor to provide various services that are very, very disturbing. Now, what do you guys think? Is this, as much as Tor can be used for, I guess, good, there's also a very dark and seedy side to it as well. What do you guys think? I've been rambling on here too long, probably.
Chris, you have the floor.
Well, Jesus, I mean, the thing is, I try to look at the positives, but as a whole, why do we pirate? Okay, why do people pirate stuff and everything? It's a rebellion thing.
Because we can't afford it.
Well, that's what.
It's our own little way of protest.
It's a.
I know.
Well, listen, it's a poke at society, saying that maybe there's another way. We have this system that we've been going since the Roman times and even prior, where it's you give us currency, we give you a service, and then there's alternatives that that people say might be better for society, like the barter system or things of that nature, where it would instill not only peace, but it would get rid of the whole greed factor, which is what unfortunately comes along with money. And that being said, what a lot of these protesters and touring is saying is that, look, these artists and shit, they're spoiled brats. I mean, they're making millions upon just fist over fist, just tons of money for they're supposed to be expressing an art form, And if you go back centuries ago doing the same thing, I mean, you first off, you definitely weren't a millionaire, but they appreciated your artwork, and it wasn't about the money that came with it and the crazy lifestyle and all that.
Okay.
So it's just greed at its worst, and I think a lot of people feel like, why should I give a shit if some actor or some rock star is bitching because of torning, and they're sitting there in their $1 million mansions while I'm sitting here
somebody's going to a liberal opinion of things.
Well, I know, and it is kind of liberal in that sense, but I'm just saying that's how a lot of people feel, and that's why they justify torning.
Well,
that matter.
If you look at it this way, and we'll get into torning, we haven't gotten there yet, but I might as well switch gears to that. Yeah. I mean, let's look at the beginning here with things like FTP. I mean, probably, I'll admit it, and I'm pretty sure all of us can. The earliest way we used to do file transfers over the internet was through FTP.
Mm-hmm.
We used FTP for a lot of things through anonymous FTP servers. But then this wonderful new thing showed up called Napster.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Napster was...
It started the, P2P sharing? Is that what pretty much...
later on, with services like Kazaa and...
Morpheus.
Yeah, and some of them are still around. I think LimeWire is still around. Granted,
are you kidding?
If you want to just get infected with spyware, there's a good way to go about it.
It's under a different name now, Frozilla, I think, or something like that.
Well, Napster was probably the pioneering P2P, peer-to-peer network. Nothing was hosted on Napster. You grabbed it from other people and you transferred it. Torrents worked the same way. Kazaa, was it Gotilla, Freenet?
Sorry, I was wrong. It's Frozenware. That's what it's called. Sorry.
But but all that came to a screeching halt when Metallica decided to actually Metallica sued them and won.
Yep.
And a lot of people lost some respect for Metallica that day. Granted, you could argue that they have any to begin with at that point.
But sellouts anyway.
Yeah. But that just spread to, like we said before, because of the popularity of MP3 through these services, it led to the creation of legitimate channels, such as iTunes or Amazon or various other media services that provide music for legitimate purchase online. And I will give Napster credit. If it wasn't for that, I don't think music companies would have ever discovered what really discovered what MP3s were going to be at the time, or digital media, if it wasn't for Napster.
Like we said, technology has to change instead of software.
Yes, completely. I mean, as bad as they said it was. Go ahead.
No, I said you take the good with the bad.
And that's what it's all about.
Like Napster that, yeah.
But then we have probably the thing that changed Napster, or anyways, piracy, was the proliferation of broadband. Before broadband, it took forever to download anything.
Yep.
I mean, wares were extremely popular back in the day. People downloading programs for free. It's still somewhat popular. But, trying to download a 400 meg program over dial-up would take you weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that used to be the big thing. You go to LANs, and everyone's like, I got a War's copy of Doom.
Let me tell you right now, LAN parties existed for two purposes and two purposes alone, and none of them were gaming.
Yeah.
It was sharing, and file sharing. Tons and tons of that.
Right, porn and file sharing.
Yeah, that was about
I remember that would be the very first thing. You get to the LAN, you'd find out who has a server set up and what are they sharing, what's the address, so you can start downloading shit from them.
Or uploading so other people can download. And, that was, that earliest form of probably network, the easiest way to do it back then. But with broadband, it became less and less popular. And then, in reality, I think that kind of led to the downfall of the LAN party scene. Oh, don't worry, we'll be doing a show on LAN parties in the future. I'm sure Cardi will want to do that. But but because of that, the piracy. A lot of people are blaming piracy, whether it be videos or music, for the destruction of profit. A lot of these companies are saying, "Oh, we haven't made money because piracy." In my mind, it has very little to do with piracy. It has more to do with quality of product. Because before, if you wanted to see the latest, movie, and it was you wanted to see it, but you didn't know if it was going to suck or not, you still rolled the dice. You went to go see it, then like, son of a bitch, this movie sucked. But they got my fucking money. Can't do that
Ninja
anymore.
Turtles 3.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like Ninja Turtles 3.
Ninja Turtles 3.
But you were still a kid, and
No. Even as a kid, I walked out of that theater with my grandpa, and I told him, "I'm sorry, you had to spend the money to watch the movie."
Yeah, the Super Mario Brothers. Well, but we'll talk about that one next week. But do you think that, like we said, the good with the bad, that because of piracy, has piracy, do you think, really hurt the studios, or it's just an excuse?
Oh, let me take this one.
Yeah, take the floor on this one, Chris. You first.
Here's the thing. Okay, has it hurt the studios and everything? Absolutely, of course it has. And when you have to, and I'm actually glad that these anti-piracy commercials they made, where they haven't shown any recently, but it was.
I still see them.
Showing, you know what I'm talking about. It shows guys who work behind the scenes and stuff, and hey, this is Schmuck Face, and he's a grip, and he only makes $30,000 a year or whatever, and with you downloading piracy, you're affecting his job, and he may lose it, and so on and so forth. So when you look at the bigger picture, of how this is affecting not just the big $1 million guys. It's not really affecting them per se, but it's really going to affect the bottom run guys, the guys that work their ass off, the grips and the assistants and all that stuff.
Let me tell you a little secret. Just because a movie makes $300 million and it was made for 100, doesn't mean it turned a profit.
Exactly. Because there's more to it than just...
They don't account the marketing budgets or anything like that into the budgets of the movies. And here's the thing. If you keep stealing the damn movies, they're just not going to make them anymore.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, can I just say this? And I think this is kind of where most people are, whether it's music or movies or even TV shows. Most people, if they do torrent, they usually will download it because they want to see if it's any good, whatever. But then, at the end of the day, if you really like it, if you're like, yes, I love this series, I love this movie, I love this song, what do? You go and actually buy the product with your own money.
Right.
And that's like me and Matt. We're definitely, I'll be honest, I'm one of that type of person. I try to avoid, honestly, torrenting as much as possible for the simple fact that, honestly, quality. Like Matt
to be
said,
fair, sometimes it's the only way to see something.
And it's the only way. Exactly.
Mario and I can attest to that. We like anime.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff just is not subtitled in English here in the States. Mm-hmm. And the only way, or licensed, and the only way you can see it is by downloading it.
Yep.
But do you think now, as much as we may think that the internet has killed the anime industry, I think it's rejuvenated it. Because we have services like Crunchyroll and Funimation licensing and directly distributing through the digital channels, not dubbed but subbed, versions of shows we probably would never have seen if the old model was still used.
No, yeah. I just wish it was a little, and I'm using wish here a little, probably going to be a little too much, but I've seen, in my experience, I've seen stores where, granted, there's digital distribution, Netflix, Hulu, Crunchyroll, and etc. But sometimes when you do find a store that actually still specializes just in anime, it's a gemstone to find because of the fact that...
I miss you, Suncoast Video.
I know. I know.
I love that store.
But I've seen stores where the owner's like, you know what? I'm not even going to have a DVD section here to give you guys in a year or two. All I'm going to really have.
Guys,
Most places are saying memorabilia is the only thing that's going to keep me afloat, if that only at this point. I'm like,
you know why? Right? But you know why, right? It comes down to 3 words: supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
The supply and demand is exactly why, and unfortunately, as a business owner, there's not enough coming in to justify, the cost. So a lot of times they have to, if you notice now, they started putting, like, I've noticed even anime stuff being thrown in at like Target and other stores, and and they're starting to see, okay, yeah, there's people, and there's people that like this stuff, but there's not enough to justify having a specialty store. So the bigger chains have the advantage of saying, hey, I tell you what we'll do, we'll appease these individuals by, giving them a little bit of it. But unfortunately, they're still screwed in. Yeah.
But it's almost like we had such a big boom with it, and now it's like nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember at one point going to even Best Buy and having 2 shelves full of
anime.
Of
a ton of anime.
Now I go to Best Buy, there's like a tenth of one side of a shelf.
And
oh my god, you know what's so funny about that? Have you guys noticed, you know what they did with the fucking anime shelf? It's like a quarter of a shelf towards the end.
It's not even a quarter, it's a tenth.
But you know what the rest of it is? It's a bunch of fucking box sets and like and stupid fucking music to film shit.
And ass loads of shitty direct-to-video family shit.
The only place that I see that still has a good, my gosh, they had it even more back in the day, but they still have a fairly okay size, Movie Stop. Still has it because people still...
But Movie Stop is not... I mean, I used to frequent Movie Stop all the time back in the day.
Same here.
I really did. Now, never, because they went mainstream. For those of you who don't know, Movie Stop is GameStop's movie brethren. It is run by GameStop, but it's they do movies, obviously. But the cool thing was when they first opened in our area, you could find the most eclectic titles ever in that store.
My God, yes.
And at insane deals. They're like, hey, trade in your used shit, guys, you get like all this for free. And you're like, well, I got stuff I don't watch.
Hey, you forgot about FYE. FYE was kind of in that same...
FYE was kind of there, but...
Yeah, but FYE was way overpriced. I mean, you could never... Everything in FYE was retail. And when I mean retail, I mean it's like Price is Right retail. Like, a movie that's $20 in one store will be $40 there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
But you could still find the more... I mean, when they went out of business, oh my God, I cleaned up at that place. But I could find eclectic stuff. But that's kind of what the internet... Switching back to where we were talking about. The internet and piracy is kind of where we're back to trying to find these eclectic things that otherwise you would never see. Because there are movies and titles that just aren't licensed in the United States, that no one knows who owns it or who can distribute it, and the only way you can see these anymore is through the internet.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many, there's more than a dozen TV shows that we may never see on again, but we can see them because, hey, the internet. Because no studio is going to re-release this stuff once it's been on DVD for a month and gets pulled. You may never find a copy again.
The interview is probably going to end up that way. That's a good example.
Which one?
The interview, I'm sure it'll be online for probably another couple of months, and then eventually it's going to drop. And like they said, Sony, unless they change their mind, they said they were not going to release it on Blu-ray or DVD. But, I mean, maybe that could change. But
well, I mean, there's a lot of titles that may never see a Blu-ray, a DVD or Blu-ray release because the rights have been lost for, 20, 30 years. They've changed hands so many times because the company's been bought and sold. No one knows who the fuck owns it.
Songs of the South from Disney.
Song of the South has no rights problems. Song of the South has no right problems. The only problem with it is that Disney won't release it because they don't want to.
because
This
of
racist as
well, it does have that particular slam of racism. And I don't think
Hey,
they want to.
yeah, but Snow White's fine. She is 13.
Mm-hmm.
Racism
Really.
bad. Pedophilia, it's a classic.
Classic. Because hey,
Snow
13
White
back,
and
13
Sleeping
back
Beauty,
then was
Aurora
I guess.
was 16.
Oh,
The Little Mermaid,
Or-
16.
5.
Ariel's 16.
Yeah, she was 16.
But I was only 11 when I saw her.
Yeah, but she's still trying to hook up with a dude who is probably in his 20s.
Probably.
I'm just saying.
She's-
Just saying.
Well, that goes for most animes where the girls are like 12, but they're supposed to play, 19.
Yeah. Do you think that now, as much as do you guys, like I said before, there's a plus and upsides to piracy, but is piracy that big of a problem as the studios make it out to be?
I don't know.
Or is it maybe helping them in the back end and they just refuse to admit it?
That's what I was going to lead into. What I was mentioning before, that I said that it could be a bad thing because it affects the little guy. But the truth of the matter is, I think it does actually help, because it's like giving advertisement to their film or whatever, and it's saying, hey, this person who maybe would never ever see it in their life is like, I'm going to actually watch it, and they like it so much they end up actually buying it. And where otherwise they wouldn't have bought it. So there is that. I think if you factor in that and factor in the people that just they're just cheap and they just want to download everything and they never would buy it. I guarantee you, if you were to like put the two numbers side to side, they'll probably equal out.
Okay.
And I would almost go to the bank saying that that's almost a fact.
Especially TV shows. I mean, as much as DVRs are helpful, I mean, is HBO losing money from Game of Thrones being pirated?
No.
Probably not.
Because there's still people that have to get HBO to even torrent it. Not to mention there's a lot of people that have it in their packages, and there's plenty of people that are getting HBO, which I think that's why HBO is doing, they're going to where you don't have to include it with your cable.
Look at Doctor Who. Doctor Who used to air on a delay of a week or so. Not anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Not anymore.
Nope.
Because of piracy.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Hell, Doctor
Piracy.
Who, you could get it before it even airs here in the States if you know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You could actually get it because it releases in England 4 hours before. 5 hours.
5 hours.
5 hours.
It's probably, I gotta say, all this stems and all is intertwined. It's interesting. As we talk about this, I'm starting to think of instant gratification. The moment that the internet got too quick, for some may see it that way. The moment that it got a little too quick, or the moment that our devices now can connect to it that quickly, it's almost. And this will probably stem back with our anime subject, is that instant gratification. So now all of a sudden you now have these new set of kids here who thinks they know everything, because now they have everything that could be, commanded by their tablet and commanded by their TV, by their smartphone now. Where it took people like
Everybody's
us,
an instant. Everybody knows everything about everything because they use Wikipedia.
Pretty much.
Chris and I know about that.
Oh, don't get me started. That is. We need to do a whole episode on Wikipedia, because I'm so fucking tired of these armchair quarterback fucking douchebags that think that they know everything because they took 5
Tell you
seconds
what,
to Google.
we'll make this a
answer.
two-parter, and we'll do part 2 later in the month.
Okay.
Because we haven't even gone. I don't want to go over an hour, and we haven't even gone through half the topics I want to talk about.
Then let's move on to the next topic.
There's a lot.
Well, let's wrap up with the big topic which Mario's talking about, is speed. Net neutrality is the big buzz going on right now. In fact, I think I just saw that it was approved. Yes. Net neutrality passed.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it did pass.
Now, a lot of people think net neutrality is bad because the government needs to stay the hell out of our internet. Others are saying the government needs to be on the internet to keep the big corporations from controlling it and dictating what content you can get. Now, let's go around and do a roundtable real quick on. We've talked about this many times before, but now that it's passed and it has been approved, which it can be overturned if the Congress chooses to, but it has to get approved by the president. Not likely. What do you guys see? Is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing for the internet? What do you think, Chris?
Take it first.
I think this is a good thing because.
And let us preface: Chris is not a pro big government guy. Not
at all.
Neither am I. I'll admit that.
What has the government done for us? Right. Let's see. Healthcare. Let's see.
Border
I could
security.
Go on a list. And,
fighting terrorists.
Security. Fighting terrorists.
I guess we were doing okay.
But that's a whole probably a whole
ISIS is just a joke.
Not even the same show. But the point being, Jesus.
That's a different show.
Net neutrality. The internet, you have to think of it this way. The internet is not just limited to the United States. It's all over the world. Mm-hmm. So for us to sit here and say our government needs to stick our nose in it, it just doesn't make any sense when you have other countries that the governments, don't have their hands in the cookie jar of the internet, And to me, if you talk about worrying about corporations getting involved and fucking with things, guess what? Whether the government's involved or not, they're going to do that anyways. It's called making money. As long as that's out there.
Here's my problem. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. If you don't mind, real quick. The internet, and I've talked about this before, data is intangible. Data is intangible. All that matters is the pipe and how much of that pipe is saturated. Now, the pipe's going to get saturated one way or a fucking other. Whether it's through Netflix or web traffic or YouTube, it's going to get saturated. That pipe is going to get full. Mm-hmm. What does it matter if I'm using Netflix, YouTube, torrents, or browsing the web, Skype? What does it matter? It shouldn't. All data should be agnostic. Now, here's my thing, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, Chris, but I got to get on this real quick. Netflix,
Go ahead,
Comcast. Okay, people are like, well, Comcast used to filter Netflix traffic to make it slow. No, they didn't. Now, has Comcast done this before? Yes. Back in the early 2000s, they did that to torrent traffic. Literally, they were dropping torrent traffic to nothing. They got in trouble for it. There was a rule created by a regulation that expired a year or two ago that said you cannot discriminate against traffic. That eventually expired.
No.
But people accused Comcast and Verizon of doing that to Netflix. They weren't. The problem is the connection they had to the service provider, which is called Cogent, was not very big. Netflix's solution is, let us put our equipment in your data center to make it better. Comcast said, no, fuck you. Pay us. Now, on that end, I agree with Comcast. Because you cannot force someone to put equipment in, you cannot force someone to let to take your equipment to provide better service. No. Others have, like Charter and a few other services, have actually done that. But Comcast said, no, pay us and we'll create a direct connection to your service to speed it up, which they did. And then everybody got pissed off saying, they're paying for fast lanes. They're paying for fast lanes on the internet. No, they're not. They paid for a direct connection. People, if you're going to be bitching, understand how fucking internet works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it goes from point A to, it doesn't just go from point A to point B. It goes from point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, all the way through multiple hops. Doesn't always take the quickest route.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to lead into was before Mario can say his piece on it. Again, whether or not the government is involved or not, you're still going to have big business involved. Now, that being said, understanding how internet works, for people that doubt net neutrality, they need to understand it. I mean, even the basics of understanding the flow of traffic, okay? Yeah. And you can even Google this if you need to. Everyone knows that Atlanta is the main hub for North America. So that's why whenever you think about hosting servers for things and such, usually they try to put it in Atlanta because that would be, in most ideal situations, the best circumstance for providing
Atlanta's not the central hub, but Atlanta has the best connection because if you really look at a map, the biggest population of people with the internet is the eastern seaboard up to Texas. And
by default,
between
what I'm saying is
Texas
by default,
and California, there ain't shit.
Okay, well, let me be more specific since Matt wants to be a jackass about it. By default, because of population purposes, Atlanta was technically made into the central hub. Because really, even though the flow of traffic, if you look at it, internet goes from Atlanta, if I remember correctly, it spiders to Chicago, then down to Texas, then across over to California, up to Washington, back over to Chicago, and then over to Washington, D.C., Virginia, North Carolina, then down to Atlanta, which I think Miami now has a kind of a small size hub, but it's nothing major.
A lot of the major providers have their equipment in these areas, the major backbones. Exactly. But there's a lot of dark fiber in the country too that's just not even used.
And that's what I was getting to, Matt. Is that just real quick? The main reason people need to understand this is because when you think about internet speeds, you think about what am I getting for my buck and things of that nature. You need to understand that depending on where you live, depends on if your internet is going to be shitty or it's going to be good. Everybody knows, if you go to California, you're fucked. Everyone in California, I mean, how many YouTubers do you see that bitch about how long it takes them to upload their videos and this and that? Because a lot of them live in California, and it's because the internet sucks over there, whereas over here it's fucking amazing, Yeah.
But you're also gonna the thing with net neutrality, and I've heard people like Glenn Beck saying the government's gonna fuck you over, and there isn't that slow. Okay, you don't understand how the network works. Okay, yes, the internet isn't that slow, but the problem is the necessity and needs and services of the user has increased in the last 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
I did an article on this. And read it. It's on 4TW's website. It's called The Abandonment of Rural America. Essentially, the problem is that the cable companies and the telephone companies have abandoned rural America. Verizon is selling their wire divisions left and right to Frontier, wants to go strictly wireless. The government wants to say that unless you have 20 down, 3 up, it is not broadband. Now, that's pissing off companies like Verizon and Comcast, whose lowest tiers are in the 10s. Verizon, their highest tiers are sometimes in the 7s. 7 megabits. That doesn't even meet the old, what they wanted the standard to be of 10.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, it's 3.
Yeah.
But because they stopped building out FiOS, because they refuse to build out anymore, and they keep saying LTE is a alternative. LTE is an alternative. LTE is not an alternative to.
Heck no.
LTE is not an alternative at all. It is not.
Even advanced.
I did the numbers.
By the way, even advanced, that so-called advanced LTE shit that's coming out, which in other countries is called LTEA or advanced. It's not even. It still isn't even close. So go ahead with the numbers, back.
Okay.
I just want
LTE's average speed is about between 10 to 20 megs. Satellite, which is they also count as being an alternative, can be anywhere between 5 to 15 megs. The problem is the caps. Comcast has caps. We currently have a 300 gigabyte cap on Comcast if you don't have business class. I have business class, I have no cap. So, for an HD movie of 2 hours, on LTE, you can watch 2 movies a month on a 10 gigabyte cap. On
Just
satellite,
think we're talking about
13.
in the future, right?
13.
which is going to be double the fucking amount of.
And this is assuming it's the only thing you've watched. For TV shows, you can watch 6 HD episodes of a TV show, a 30-minute TV episode. On LTE, you can watch 6 episodes. On satellite, 33. And on LTE, on an SD, you can watch about 1 full season of 25 episodes. And on satellite, you can do 125. That is a joke.
Big time.
I'm ready to put my 2 cents. I'm ready to put my 2 cents into this one now.
Go ahead.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Everything we've been saying here is, right on the money with most of what I would have said myself. But I'm going to go ahead and toss something else into the mixture that I think we haven't touched, and I'm surprised we haven't. Is the average user, well, no, not the right words. Okay. The way how I live my life right now with me and my wife right now, we don't have cable. We don't have, particular a cable box and all that to watch our entertainment. We have strictly transformed ourselves into internet-based users to basically watch stuff from Hulu, Netflix, and other means. In this particular case, just to go on with our lives. And people have wondered, well, how do you do that? I need my ESPN, I need my live TV, I need my this, I need my that. Well, what's happening is that I'm starting to notice other people are starting to do that. So then now I'm thinking, so if the user starts to change from, I don't want to pay these obscured packages, screw that. I'm going to go ahead and just simply pay my $8, my $10 for Netflix, my $10 for Hulu, my $10 for Crunchyroll or whatever, do something else here, and I'm set. I'm done. I'm ready. So I'm wondering, with that changing, and it likely may change into a bigger percentage in the future, is that going to change the model with, the ISP companies? Are they going to start noticing people are going to not, signing up, but yet their internet usage, their users are starting to use the internet even more?
Or are they going to start throttling things like HBO Go? Or are they going to start throttling ESPN Online? Or MLB TV?
Oh, it's retaliation.
Because you're not buying their cable packages.
Yeah.
Comcast...
Well, maybe they just need to...
And this is what Comcast people... Why net neutrality is existing. To prevent Comcast from doing these things. And also to upgrade the gosh darn infrastructures.
Exactly.
There is a good chunk of America that does not have solid broadband service. Good chunk.
That's right.
I think it's somewhere in the high 20 to 30%. That is insane.
That's a lot.
Some stats say it's like 17, but even 17% is a shit number.
Considering there's poorer countries that actually have a higher percentage of coverage of broadband than we do.
Exactly.
Well,
that's because there's a cellular, and their cellular model is different than ours. Exactly. By the way, those arguing like satellite dish, you do realize that a satellite dish sucks with anything other than just videos. You try and do Skype or gaming, you have a 100 millisecond, a 1 second lag between a 1 second lag.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Chris knows. I tried to game with satellite. How did that work, Chris?
Oh, it pretty much failed epically. It was pretty funny to watch, though.
I haven't glitched like that since the dial-up days.
Yeah, you couldn't stay connected to the server. He couldn't stay connected. He'd get timed out every time.
Yeah. So this is why I am actually for, as much as it pains me to say, I'm for net neutrality. Net neutrality is not about government control, but the government telling the service providers to quit dicking around.
Yep.
Because Comcast doesn't give a shit. Verizon doesn't give a shit, obviously. Google's
I guess you're kind of selling me on
rise.
that point, Matt, to be honest with you.
What?
The way you're putting it, you're selling me on the opposite idea now, because I kind of see your point. I didn't really think of it that way, because I'm like, the government, they're so bad at controlling things. I mean, they have
But
such
it's
a hard
not
time
about
controlling.
control as much as
But
it's
yeah,
about you got to do this. Let me
Let's
tell you
keep
right
it
now, as
fair.
much
I
as
know
people
there
hate
needs
it, the
to be some kind of-
Telecommunications Act of 1939 is the reason why we have telephone access everywhere in the country. Now, it also stifled innovation for a number of years. It did. It had its downsides. But if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have phone service in the country like we do now. So let's just end on that part, I think. Net neutrality is not... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but the only counter argument to it, now thinking about it, is the fact that, okay, if the government is going to, help keep them from being unfair, who says what's fair? And then who controls the one controlling? So where's there has to be plenty of oversight, which if they do it right, okay, this is the way I could see them doing it right. They need to really take a serious look at the FCC, Federal Communications Commission. Then they need to, just with everything else, they need to seriously have some more, more oversight.
Yeah.
There needs to be checks and balances.
We don't need a department of the internet. What we do just need is a department of fair use, of equal use. Make sure that everybody has the same access everywhere in the country, anywhere in the country. Not just in specific areas. So. Anyways.
Next subject.
Next subject is...
Oh, by the way, before we move on, actually, real quick, I was just going to comment that I'm willing to bet you a lot of cable companies, because of everything going on, you might finally see them doing things that you never thought they would do, like possibly offer, hey, you don't have to pay for, all these channels plus a bunch of channels you'll never watch.
Them going a la carte has been talked about, but I don't see how that ever happening. A la carte. But anyways,
I think they make
that's something we'll discuss that's something we'll discuss for another time. So I think that'll wrap up this particular episode. We'll discuss this again in part 2, which we may do in a couple weeks. I think we got everything in here because I still want to talk about. I had the seedier side of the internet, such as Facebook, Twitter, and social media. We didn't get on that yet, but I think that could be a topic for another time. Don't want to run this episode way too long.
Part 2.
So, Cardi, where can they find you?
You can find me at 4TW Network, obviously. You can also find me, still go to therealcartman.com, still working on the site. I'm kind of having a delay due to me moving, so I'm moving next Friday into a new apartment.
Sweet.
So that's going to put a big... Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So once I get settled in, I'm going to release my episodes of... I've decided on the name of the show. It's going to be called... what did I tell you it was, Matt?
I don't remember. A piece of Cardi or something?
No. Cardi Knows Best. And that's the name of the show. And basically, it's just going to be me going off for 5 or 6 minutes about different topics, and look forward to that. And also on Twitter, by the way, you can find me at @CallMeCardi. And follow me there. Watch me rage.
Yes, listen to them troll people for local radio wars here in Tampa. Always entertaining.
Yeah, it's
Mario, where can they find you?
Facebook, Mario Benegas. I'm still thinking about maybe opening up a Twitter account, but I'm not sure.
You should write something for the website. Yeah.
Okay.
Do some anime reviews or something.
I'm actually watching one right now that was recommended by my good friend Peter. It's actually pretty interesting. Not too bad, though. It's called Noragami. Not sure if you've heard of it at all,
no.
Matthew.
No.
If I get it done, it's like a 1 season long, which I sort of prefer them like that sometimes. Yeah. If I'm thinking of doing something short, but I'll put something up. I'll see what I can do.
All right, and our recommendation for the week, by the way, will be attached to the end of the episode. And we're going to encode something a little special that was kind of cool. I'm not going to spoil it. Something that Mario and Chris saw and thought was freaking amazing. So stay tuned to the end of the episode, and it will I'll attach it to the end. So you can find me on AdmiralJoker.com. You can also find me at AdmiralJoker on Twitter. Yes, I tweet now. You can also find me on Facebook at Matthew Majeski. And, of course, always at 4TWNetwork.com. For Chris, the real Cardi Kovacs, Super Mario Berengues, and I am Matthew Admiral Joker Majeski saying, have a good night.
Good night.
When two empires declare war, neither side is innocent.
You're still a traitor, you worthless piece.
We were children, asked to fight an intergalactic war against an enemy we'd never met. Let's stop pretending our side stood on some moral high ground.
What do you want, Rocky?
Where's Tommy?
Tommy Oliver is a ghost. You'll never find him. I don't even know where he is.
Bullshit is an ugly color on you.
I prefer pink.
If dying is what you choose to do here today, I would prefer you did it with your dignity intact.
How soon after the truce did you turn? Did you even wait until we were disbanded?
The second the machine empire integrated their technology into our society, I knew the freedom we bled for was done.
So you stabbed us in the back?
I followed the only rule worth following in this fuckskin. I made sure I was on the winning side, which is why I'm sitting here and you're chained to a chair. Comfortable?
You were never really one of us.
Thank you. The thought that weaponizing youth and training them to kill could have turned out so ugly for so many of them.
We were a team. We fought for each other. You never understood that.
Let's talk about Jason.
What about him?
You were married to him, weren't you?
For 8 hours.
Do you know why they did it?
Got a little tired of being made fun of by you country fucks.
Skull, you sold us out!
The Sheen Empire had better meth. That was all it took. You know what happens to a dog that chases cars and finally catches one?
It doesn't end well for the dog.
Let's move on to Zach, shall we? Good kid. Fit. A little hyperactive. Do you know where he ended up?
About those hip-hop keto tapes.
Hip-hop keto, that's keto, and abs, knock him out, knee him up, work it, counter and punch, hip-hop keto, let's go.
He knew it was bullshit, but the public ate it up. It wasn't about the money for him. He was addicted to the action. It was his outlet.
And you think peddling false hope to fat kids was enough to scratch that itch for him? Did you know he joined the Machine Empire? Didn't even have to recruit him. So hungry for a battlefield, he volunteered to help us sweep up whatever resistance was left.
Good on me.
너 알아? 네가 그 운동 프로그램에 어이 어? 깡둥이 운동 프로그램 하는 개새끼지?
change. 그래 이 새끼라. 아무래도 우리 카피 했댔지.
좋네. 죽이버려! 할 말 있어? 어?
It's morning time.
Most people play the odds, but then there's this rare few who don't feel alive unless the odds are stacked completely against them.
I know you get me. It's all good. Get on with it.
It's tough, seeing your friends murdered one by one. Especially by one of your own.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Think about it. Rita made Tommy to fight against us. And then he betrayed her, switched sides, Mommy tried to kill him. He lost his power, gained it back, lost it again, only to see a fucking treaty signed. I'm out. I'm glad I'm not his shrink. Say what you want about the machines, at least they're consistent.
What does this have to do with me?
Tommy's always been hung up on you. Yesterday, Tommy paid a visit to Billy Cranston. But don't worry, I think we all know it's unlikely you fucked him, too.
Our alliance with the Machine Empire will bring a new level of synergy within Cranston Lockheed Martin. We will be mass producing our signature Blade Blaster weapons with an initial order of 1.6 trillion euros from the Soviet Europe.
Damn it, Billy. What'd you do?
You're out of your mind. Tommy didn't kill any of us. He's a ranger. You just forgot what that means.
Why do you think they gave these powers to kids?
Because we were the only ones who could destroy Rita and her.
You are not that stupid! For fuck's sake! Pull your shit together and start thinking for yourself for once in your life! You're not a little girl anymore. Now where's Tommy?
Go fuck yourself.
You think you're defending something worthwhile. I get that. But technology, the machines, they always win.
I told you I haven't seen Tommy since.
One last warning. Every move we make leaves a footprint.
Trina's beautiful. While the government was negotiating the treaty, we were burying our own. I saw him for a moment and then he was gone. It's been years.
Machines are never wrong. They told us exactly what you'd know.
So you lose.
Oh, Kimmy. You really just don't get it, do you? I never needed you as a witness. You, my dear, are bait.
Who are you?
I'm Kimberly.
No. You're not. I held Kimberly in my arms when she died. So I'm gonna ask you one more time. Who are you?
Kill. Stab. Drown. Sleep. Shoot. Don't you remember me, darling? The one who turned you into a ranger in the first place. I've killed them all. And now the world is ours.
Rita.